In this video, I'll show you how you can use Excel tables to group, organize, filter, and total data in your Excel workbooks. Welcome to Hey Ivan, a channel where you can ask tech questions. Got a tech question? Drop a comment. Don't have a question? Click like if you find value in this video, share it with others, and consider subscribing to join the community. Thanks! Before we jump in, I've put chapter links in this video so you can jump exactly to the section you want. There are three primary reasons that people come to Excel. The first is they have a list of data that they're managing. The second is they'd like to use calculations or computations. And the third is that they like to summarize large amounts of data. In this video, we'll be talking about the first thing, managing a list of data. Let's jump into Excel and see how the data is structured on this worksheet. You'll notice that on this worksheet, the rows go across and data is in columns that go up and down. You'll also notice that there are no blank rows or blank columns in this set of data. Excel interprets a blank row or blank column as a separation between one set of data and another. So let's insert a table into this workbook. It's pretty simple to do. First, you select a cell in the data set, or if you're concerned about ensuring you have exactly the right data selected, highlight all of the data in your range, and then go to the Insert tab and click Table. The dialog box appears and asks whether or not your table has headers. In this case, we do, so we'll click OK. And that's it. We've inserted a table into this workbook. Now that we've inserted a table into this workbook, let's take a look at a few of the features that are specific to Excel tables so that you can understand what they are and take advantage of them in your own workbooks. The first thing that I do whenever I insert a table is give that table a name. So that's one of the features of a table. Every table in your Excel workbook has a name. By default, it's a generic name, but we're going to give this one a specific name. So let's go ahead and click in the table name box, and we're going to give it a name. If you try and give it a name that it doesn't like, it'll tell you. The name can't begin with certain characters, can't have spaces, and a few other things like that. I'm not going to bore you with it. You can discover that on your own. Let's go ahead and press enter. And so we've named this table Sales Data. Another feature in tables is the header row. You'll notice that the first row on this sheet has special formatting, and if we continue to scroll down the page, the first row remains visible all the time. It rolls up into this gray area, but you can continue to see the column headers no matter where you are in your workbook. In addition to this table row, we also have auto filter options at each column. Let's take a look. The auto filter option will allow you to sort your data alphabetically, A to Z, that's ascending, or descending. It can let you sort by color, and if you scroll down here, you can filter to hide certain values in the column. So that's a feature that you get automatically as a result of inserting a table in your workbook. Another feature that you get in Excel tables is something called banded rows. These might look like ledger lines. Every other row has a different color, sort of alternating back and forth between dark and light to make the table easier to read. If you look here on the Table Design tab, there are a number of different formats that are available. You can change that to whatever color scheme you like, but by default, you get banded rows. You have an option also to look at banded columns. I'll show you that in a little bit. Another feature that you have is at the bottom of your table. At the last row of your table, there's a small caret. That's a handle. You can use that handle, if you click and drag on it, to include additional rows in your table, or to remove rows that already exist from being included in your table set. So if you see here, I've removed that last row from being included in my table, which means if I do any filtering or totaling, this last row will not be included. In this case, I'd like that last row, so I'm going to click in my table. I'm going to grab that handle and drag down to include that last row in my table once more. Another thing that you get as part of your table, and I guess I'll delete this so you can see it in action, is you get something called calculated columns. So what that allows you to do is when you type equal to begin and insert a function, like let's say we're going to do a VLOOKUP. I have a sheet, rate per hour, that has a table on it with some rates per hour. We're going to look at a VLOOKUP. Let's do VLOOKUP really quick. By the way, if you'd like me to make a video about VLOOKUP, let me know in the comments and I'll come back and do just that. Okay, so we're going to do VLOOKUP. We're going to click here on the title. Notice now, instead of Excel writing D2 in the formula as we'd expect, it actually refers to the column header name. That's another benefit or a feature of tables, is now you're referring to table columns based on the name of the column. So let's say we wanted to look at rate. The name of my other table is rate per hour. It's a rate per hour table. I can refer to that table by name. I'm going to press tab here, column 2, and false because, you know, VLOOKUP. Now, what's great about tables is when you add a formula to a column, it automatically calculates the rest of your table. Every row gets its own copy of that same formula all the way down. As you add rows to your table, those new rows will inherit that same formula going forward. So that's a calculated column, another feature that you get as part of an Excel table. The next thing that you get as part of Excel tables is something called Table Tools. We looked at it just a moment ago. This is a whole tab that shows up with a bunch of tools that are specific to a table. This is the Table Design tab here. Now, if I click outside of my table, that Table Design tab just vanishes, but if I click back into my table, it reappears. It's a contextual tab. So let's go ahead and click on Table Design. And you'll notice I have a number of options here, including the table name, which is what we did first. And then we have our option here for banded rows. We could choose to do banded columns. But the thing that I find most useful in the table design area is something called total row. This turns on a special row at the bottom of our table that can do totals for us. And if I look at the very last column, I'll see that as I select it, I have a drop-down arrow that appears, and when I click on that, I can choose from among several different popular formulas, or I can choose more functions and pick exactly the function that I want. So in this case here, we're looking at rate per hour. Why don't we see, if we click the drop-down here, what the average rate per hour is? And that average rate per hour is 166. Why don't we look here at the hours, click on that, click the drop-down, and choose to sum. What are the total number of hours that we're talking about? And over here for the date, somehow or another, our date format is all messed up. Why don't we go ahead and fix the date format? We're gonna right click on this. We're gonna format cells. We're gonna choose date, and let's pick the date that shows the month, the day, and the year. Oh, that looks much better. Whew. Okay, so we're not gonna do a formula on date, but let's do this. Let's count the number of times we have a person with a title show up in our list. So right now we have 33 people showing up in our list, with a total of 10,000 hours, an average rate per hour of 166. But here's the great thing about totals and the total row in tables. They work in combination with the filters. So if we click here to expand our auto filter for title, and let's say that we don't want to show everyone, let's just look at the partners. If we click OK here on partners, you'll see that we have 9 partners. Total hours is 3,893, and the average rate per hour is 350. What's great is if you're trying to figure out more about your data and say, you know what, I want to see partners, now I'd like to see associates, you can do that just as easily. You click here on the filter, uncheck partner, check associate, click OK, and you can see here we have 15 associates, 4,546 hours. This is great. We're learning more information about our data. We're grouping, we're filtering, we're totaling based on information that's in this worksheet. What are some of the benefits of having an Excel table in your workbook? The first is you'll reduce sorting accidents. I don't know if any of you have ever accidentally sorted part of your worksheet and left the rest of the worksheet unsorted. Perhaps you only had several rows selected and not the entire thing. When you group your data with Excel tables, Excel knows that all of those rows belong together, so when you do a sort, it sorts them all at once. You won't accidentally leave behind some of your data as unsorted. Another benefit of having tables in your workbook is cell formatting. So when I go to the last row in my table and I press tab, it automatically adds another row. I'm gonna type, this is person 34, this is me. Hey, Ivan, let's say I'm in Los Angeles and I'm a partner. When I press tab, notice that the rate per hour automatically got filled in. That's because formulas automatically move forward into the new row when you add rows to your table. And if I type a date here, let's do 3/15/21, and I press tab, you'll notice the date format also continues forward. So formatting and formulas all automatically get propagated. Ooh, big word. They automatically get propagated to new rows when you're working in a table. Another benefit is if you have a chart or a graph or even a pivot table that is linked to this particular set of data, as you add and remove rows to your data in the table, those charts and pivot tables will update to reflect the rows that are there. You don't have to go back and redefine them to a different range of cells. And another benefit of these tables is that they're backward compatible. So if you have people that are using Excel 365, Excel 2007, even all the way back to Excel 2003, all of those versions of Excel have something like a table. Some of the older versions have something called a list, which is functionally equivalent to a table. And even if you go beyond that, you go to a really old version of Excel, the Excel table will degrade gracefully. So let's go ahead and turn off the total row. If we don't want it, that total row vanishes. And one of the questions that I do get asked when I talk about tables is, well, what if I decide I don't want the table in my workbook anymore? What if I'm done with it, I've gotten what I needed, and I'd like to remove it altogether? you can convert the table back to just a standard range of cells by clicking in the table. Then on the table design ribbon, you go up to this option here in the second group tools, you click convert to range, and then it'll ask you if you wish to convert that table back to a normal range. When you click yes, the table vanishes, the formatting remains, but if you really want to get rid of that formatting, you can select it, you can go here to clear, and you can choose to clear the formats. That's how you convert your table back to a standard range of cells. And that's everything you need to know about tables. Thanks for watching. If tables makes a big difference in the way that you use Excel, you might want to take a look at this video here, which will show you everything you need to know about pivot tables in under 20 minutes. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.